can I be real with you for a minute? Let me tell you about a time where I thought I was absolutely crushing it in the friend game. When I first started high school, I was kind of in between friend groups. The guys I hung out with in elementary school and junior high had kind of dissolved. Some went to different schools. Some I had just stopped hanging out with because our interests kind of grew apart. You know that thing that happens when your sixth grade friends all get obsessed with Magic the Gathering and LARPing and you realize you need different friends? Have you ever had that happen? No, just me? Okay, well, the point is that sometimes you start to drift apart from your friends because you aren't into the same things anymore. Well, anyway, I hit the campus of Thunderbird High School with the typical fears of freshman hazing, the terrifying difference in size and maturity between a scrawny 14-year-old freshman, me, and the 18-year-old senior with a full beard, tattoos, a car, and the ability to vote. It was pretty freaky. But I was also looking for a new group of friends to hang with. Double freaky. Somehow, I fell in pretty quickly with a group of older dudes. We were hanging out one night in a big group, and I cracked a few jokes and did my usual goofy guy thing, and suddenly I was in. Apparently, they needed a guy around who could make them laugh, and I had just been given that role. So suddenly, all my weekends and evenings were filled up hanging out with these juniors and seniors. They could drive, they could go wherever they wanted, and with all this new freedom I suddenly had access to, I felt like a new man. I thought I was crushing it. But these guys were living a totally different life than I had lived up to that point. I had always been kind of one of the good kids. I got good grades, my teachers liked me, I was at church every weekend. I didn't really get in much trouble growing up. But these guys were different. I tried to fight it, I tried to cling to my faith and to who I was, but I just sort of slowly got pulled into it and found myself doing all kinds of things I never thought I would do. There were parties and girls and all kinds of situations I never should have been in, but I was there with my friends and trying to be cool. I thought I was crushing it, but in the end, I just ended up getting crushed by the consequences of my actions. The fun and excitement quickly wore off, and I was just left with guilt and regret and a long list of people who didn't trust me anymore. And I found myself wondering, how in the world did I get here? Have you ever been there? Well, right now, I want you to think about your closest friends. Those 3 or 4 people that you spend most of your time with, you feel closest to, and you would consider your best friends. Okay, do you have them in your head? Good. Now I want you to answer this one very important question. Are they the kind of person you want to be? When you look at their lives, the way they treat people, the choices they make, would you be happy if you ended up just like them? It's not always an easy question to answer because sometimes we don't really like the honest response. But here's why I asked it in the first place. If your closest friends are not the kind of person you want to be, you're going to have a huge problem on your hands because you will become who you hang out with. I don't mean you might become them or some distant possibility exists. I mean, given enough time and influence, you will become just like them. Now, already I'm sure some of you are feeling defensive. You're thinking, who does this guy think he is? He doesn't know me. He doesn't know my friends. That's true, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong. And I bet if you stop to think about it for a minute, you'll realize that I might be onto something here. Our friends have a powerful influence on us, and there's sort of a gravitational pull to go with the flow and fit in with the people closest to us. It doesn't matter how confident or sure of yourself you think you are, the people you are closest to, the people whose opinion you really value, will ultimately determine the kind of person you become. And now this isn't just some idea I cooked up. This comes straight from the Bible. Specifically, it comes from the book we're hanging out in throughout this series, the book of Proverbs. King Solomon, who was the wisest man to ever live, wrote this document as a collection of truths and good advice for his sons to follow. Now there are a lot of profoundly simple yet incredibly wise statements within this book, and if you and I were to follow those in our daily lives, we'd find things just go better for us. And Solomon deals with the exact principle we're talking about here, the issue of friends. He writes this in Proverbs 13, verse 20. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Essentially, what he is saying is, you will become who you hang out with. If you're spending your time with wise people, you will become wise. If you're hanging out with fools, well, things don't look so good for your future. Now, if you're still having a silent argument with me in your head, and you're refusing to buy this whole idea, Let's look at this on a much smaller level. Have you ever found yourself taking on small traits of the friends around you? It may be how you dress, how you do your hair, even the way you talk. If you spend enough time hanging out with someone, it's only natural for them to rub off on you a little bit, right? I had a friend in high school named Chris, and he called everyone fella. I have no idea why he did that or where it came from, but it was just his thing. He called people fella. Well, I started hanging out with him, and after a while, I found myself in conversations with other people, and I'd hear fella come out of my mouth. I didn't plan on saying it. I didn't make some conscious decision to adopt Chris's catchphrase. It just started to creep into my vocabulary. Has that ever happened to you? Now, that's not such a big deal if you end up with a new word you say all the time, or you start wearing hats every day or whatever. But it can be a huge deal if you start to adopt more significant lifestyle choices from the people around you. Those consequences are much bigger. You see, consequences and wisdom can both be great teachers, but consequences can crush you, while wisdom will help you to crush it. Guys, not taking the time to actually think about who you choose as friends is an extremely dangerous move. I didn't, and it led to several years of my life that I really regret. I hope and pray something better for each one of you. So today, I want to challenge you to step back and look at the people around you. You're not judging them, you're not being critical, you're being wise. Look at the people in your inner circle of friends. And based on the choices they make, the way they treat others, and especially their relationship with Jesus, are they someone you want to be like? If the answer is no, then you need a new group of close friends. You don't necessarily have to cut those people completely out of your life, though in some cases that can actually be necessary, but you need to reorganize your friendship priorities. Now, if you're still not sure whether or not you're hanging with the right people, let me ask you one more question. Are your closest friends bad idea friends? If that's a new term for you, it's pretty simple. They're the friends who always seem to have bad ideas. It's complicated, I know. It's not that they're bad people, it's just that when they're around, you always seem to end up doing something that turns out to be a bad idea. They're the ones who come up with little gems like, hey, let's sneak out after your parents go to sleep, or let's go steal candy from little kids on Halloween, or let's shave that cat. All examples of bad ideas. And we all know those people who are just deep wells of terrible options. Solomon would call them fools. And he would say that if you're hanging out with bad idea friends, you're going to suffer harm. Things are not going to go well for you. On the other hand, who are those friends that you might not spend as much time with right now, but you know they're the kind of person you'd actually like to be? And here's a hint. They might be sitting at your cube right now. Maybe you need to start spending more time with them and less time with your bad idea friends. Maybe you need to step out and make a few friends here that can be the beginning of a new group of friends for you out there. More than anything, what I'm hoping you'll do starting right now is to start thinking about your friendships. To stop just letting friendships happen to you based on who is around, and to think logically about who you choose to hang out with. Are they pursuing Jesus the way you want to pursue him? Do they draw you closer to God or seem to drag you farther away? Are you a better person because they are in your life, or do you find yourself doing things you regret because of them? CCV students, you can choose the wrong friends and get crushed by the consequences, or you can make wise choices about who you spend your time with and absolutely crush it. The choice is yours.